Are you ready for Pokemon Mastery? I bet you are, 'cause it's time for Pokemon of the Week! Hey everybody, it's me DeogenZ, not the epic voice guy, but just testing out new voices, 'cause I love accents, if you couldn't tell. And this week, we're gonna go into the NU zone to see a Pokemon that's rather overlooked. It's been left in the dark caves of the Hoenn region, never to be seen again, and that is Mawile. This first set, one of 4, just so you know, stay tuned, there is much to learn about this Mawile. It's got a couple of niches to fill in NU. This set is pretty straightforward. It goes with my main tactics of hit 'em hard and hit 'em fast, but hit 'em fast is not necessarily something that Mawile does splendidly. Thanks to the base 50 speed, you may want to consider doing the opposite of raising all of its speed effort values up. Make sure that it has no effort values in speed instead. Allocate them to defense or maybe to HP as well so it has longer staying power. And then switch the nature to a nature I don't have up here, but I'm telling you separately. Switch to Brave Nature, this way speed is naturally diminished. And run a Trick Room set. I know that Crustle was from a RU tier and this guy's from NU, so they probably won't be doing any mixed battling. But I've mentioned a couple of slow fighters on this series that you can go back and check that would work well with Mawile. A good complement to Mawile would be something of Altaria. Based on the fact that they can switch out between each other's weaknesses, not much is weak against, or not much is strong rather, against Mawile super effectively, as is Altaria. So those are pretty good swap outs. If somebody tries to go for Ice or Dragon, Mawile comes in and raises its moves with Sword Stance. Since it's going to be the main striker in this set, you want to have priority with Sucker Punch. This way, even if it's not fast enough, and even if you don't do the Trick Room set like I suggest, it will land a 1-2 punch so long as your opponent is intending to strike first. I have Ice Punch and Iron Head on this set to go along with the ability Sheer Force. Sheer Force will give your move a 30%, I believe, increase in power, but the secondary move with Ice Punch, in that case it would be the possibility of freezing your foe, that will be cancelled out. So no worries, and if you want a different punching move, you could try Thunder Punch instead, but I feel as though Ice Punch gives you better super effective spread, especially when you consider it's good against rock types who definitely would have something of an earthquake. On set 2, we get to see why that evil Peapod hanging from Mawile's head has such a large grin, and that's because it's a great supporter. Aside from having the variant and attack, this is more where you would find Mawile naturally, since its stats just don't really warrant a sweeper type of set. The Stealth Rocks, Taunt, Super Fang, and Seismic Toss will do you well. Super Fang to cut your foe's health in half, Seismic Toss to finish them off, hopefully they're a heavier foe, and Stealth Rocks, of course, being one of the best setups you can get in the metagame, so you'll want to make sure you can do this early, maybe even lead out with a Mawile, because you've got the added effect of having Intimidate as its alternative ability. So it doesn't just know Sheer Force, it can also know Intimidate, which is very important in further protecting Mawile from physical attacks, although it naturally has a much better physical defense, not comparatively to everything in the series, but to its other stats, that's one of the higher ones, along with its physical attack. So that's why I max out attack in the effort value range, as well as hit points. This way we've got plenty of staying power on the field. We can taunt many foes, Super Fang them away, and force your opponent to switch. Another fun way to force your opponent to switch, so long as they don't have a steel or other poison types, would be Toxic. But make sure, since you don't want to be taunt fodder, you have at least one offensive move, so keep Super Fang or Seismic Toss if you want to switch out for Toxic. And if you're looking to restore some of Mawile's hit points, you might want to use Pain Split. I don't know, it's up to you. It's not a move I really prefer, but I realize it as a valid strategy. It comes down to sometimes luck of who's getting sent out. Sometimes I feel as though Pain Split doesn't really benefit me that much when I could be waging a lot more damage, but hey, that's me. You know my strategy. Hit him hard, hit him fast, so Pain Split is not really in my wheelhouse. On set 3, Mawile grins another type of grin, one that will gain you victory in an alternative type of way. And this is a different supporting set that Mawile can possess, being one of the only ones, actually I think the only one if I'm not mistaken. I don't really know the NU tier all that well, but I'm fairly certain it's the only steel type in the tier that has Baton Pass. So with that, you really should take advantage of that niche. And if you don't want to use it to set up stealth rocks and things, you should consider boosting your own other teammates' stats with a Baton Pass. Having Iron Defense and Sword Stance will boost defense and physical offense all in one couple of turns. I shouldn't say all in one turn, but a couple of turns if you're able to keep your opponent at bay. Hopefully they're trying to use physical moves on Mawile to retaliate, because then if you start out with Iron Defense, you'll be able to buff the attacks quite well. And that's why I have leftovers attached, because ideally you'll be able to boost your stats a couple of times before switching out with Baton Pass. And as always, to keep this away from the taunt fodder, we add Super Fang. I've seen some sets have no kind of offensive move and switch out Super Fang with Substitute, but I don't see the purpose in that, since Baton Pass is not Volt Switch. It's not U-turn, so it's not considered an offensive move. Therefore, even if you got your sub up before your opponent was attacking you, you'd still have to deal with not being able to fight back or do anything else because you've been taunted. So don't fall prey to that kind of trap. Make sure you have at least one offensive move, but in the ways of Substitute, in itself, it's not a bad move. In fact, it's a grand idea if you can manage it. But then again, you're going to have to switch out one of these moves, and if you're going to switch anything, it would probably be one of the stat boosters. So do you want increased attack or increased defense? It comes down to a question of that. But if you completely omit Substitute, then you can take your chances directly taking the hits and switching out when it is time and boosting both offense and defense. The choice is up to you. Oh, and before we go on to the last and final set of Mawile, I want to mention here too, the Trick Room effect works wonderfully. So if you want to have a Brave Nature or something else that diminishes speed and increases defense, by all means do so. Just make sure that you don't follow the effort value spread in which we max out speed. It's important to note because some people would like to be naturally speedy and other people have a Trick Room team already established. So if you're one of those people, here's another member you can integrate. And finally, set number 4, which comes from one of my subscribers, Shipshore64, and this is his specialty that he came up with. He is actually to thank for this current week of Pokemon of the Week because he inspired me to take a look at this very underused, almost never used, in fact almost very much never used because of its tier, Poke, because it just didn't seem like a awesome fighter to me, so why would I raise it? But he sent me a message in my inbox, and I'll mention that at the end of the show, how you guys can get more into this series than just commenting on the side. And, you know, he really showed me that this is actually a Pokemon that has its niche and can be used well. So for what he suggests, word for word, stat for stat, and attack for attack, is maxing out its HP, maxing out its physical attack, having it have a Brave Nature, so that its speed is as low as possible, and using the moves Metal Burst, Sword Stance, Sucker Punch, and Baton Pass. And I had an additional taunt there. He didn't have that, but I'm just adding that as a possibility. This way, you can prevent your foes from setting up on you, because even though Mawile's got some pretty impressive defenses, although he didn't invest anything much in this defense zone, it can still be overcome by a couple of stat boosts, so it's something to be careful of. Now, what his idea is with this set is that Metal Burst should kill everything. I don't know how well that will work. It really is dependent on your opponent striking you first, and since Mawile resists most of the types in the Pokemon franchise, it's not going to get that much damage to retaliate back with Metal Burst. So I'm somewhat skeptical as how effective Metal Burst can be. Of course, if you use Swords Dance, it'll get some extra power, and Sucker Punch will give you the priority even though you have no speed EVs invested. And he didn't mention anything about Trick Room in this set, although I would imagine it could be a useful strategy here too. Focus Sash, of course, is to prevent the one-hit KO, which, you know, the fact that you're basing your entire strategy on taking a lot of damage, to me already seems like a flawed fight, when you could use all the other sets I mentioned before and have Mawile stay on the field and be more practical for your team, because it's not the super striker as much as you would wish it to be. It's not going to sweep a team, and since it's going to resist so much damage, Metal Burst isn't even going to make that much of a mark. So as far as this set goes, I wouldn't personally use it, but I want to know what you guys think in the comments below. Most of you, obviously, have fought in many more metagame matches than I have. Would this be something that you would find useful, or a hindrance to your team? It almost kind of makes Mawile look like fodder for slaughter, just based on it having to take so much damage before it can do anything effectively. But that's been Mawile for this edition of Pokemon of the Week. Let me know what you think below. Have you ever used this one in the NU zone? Or have you taken it out of NU? Have you fought in OU? Nah, that's impossible, but that would be interesting. Definitely a battle I'd like to see, if you could fight it. Remember to subscribe to Planet Poke for this and all other great Pokemon created content. We've got card openings, we've got tutorial videos, we've got walkthroughs, we got it all! Anything that has to do with Pokemon, we've got it. And if you check out my channel, youtube.com/DeogenZ, why don't you hit the subscribe button over there too? Make me so happy! It really would. And on the mentioning of, do you want to get more into the Pokemon of the Week series, here's what you do. Go subscribe to my channel, and just like Shipshore did, send me a personal message. Yes, send me a personal message with Pokemon of the Week, number, whatever the episode is going to be for that week, and let me know what you think of the future set, because I always will show you an outline of what the Pokemon of the next week is going to be. So if you already know what that is going to be, and you've got a set that works, you definitely should send me a message like Shipshore did here, inspire me a bit more, and you can be a part of this series directly and get a shout out in the best possible way, because it shows your smarts. So I will see you next week.